It may take months before the Thabo Bester prison escape case goes to trial. It's now been postponed to June for pre-trial proceedings after some of the accused changed lawyers. At the same time, the prosecutor says the trial may last at least 24 weeks due to the fact that everything seems to be in dispute. Well, let's discuss this further. We're joined by Newzroom Afrika's very own Mnisi, who, as we know, is closely keeping an eye on this case. And we've also got, via our video line, legal analyst Melusi Xulu, to both of our guests, not to you, Linda. Let's just say thank you to one of our guests for joining. Melusi, I want to begin with you, as really the only guest on the issue this afternoon. What do you make of the pre-trial hearing being postponed for this length of time?
It might be that there are certain issues that need to be ascertained, but it might also be due to the court dates, because right now it's February, maybe the court is busy, so it's the only date they could get. And remember, this is not a very simple case, Michelle. It's a case that is complicated, so maybe they just need time to make sure that everything is in order. But I'm sure that come June, they'll be ready, because the other issue is changing of attorneys at a short space of time is a problem. So if you're going to postpone this case for a new attorney to read the docket copies, he might or she might need more time. So I think it's also got to do with the change of the attorneys, as you said in the introduction.
Of course, what we have to be wary of is that the change of attorneys, Melusi, is a stalling tactic.
I don't know.
All right, it does appear that we're battling with our connection to Melusi. Let's try and stabilize that and bring you in, Linda. That is always the worry, right? That changing attorneys is a bit of a stalling tactic. In this case, it's a months-long stalling tactic.
I mean, if you look at the postponement, the last postponement was in October, Michelle. So the accused persons would have had a couple of months before Wednesday's appearance.
So it's 4 months.
Yeah, to sort out their issues when it comes to legal representation. And if you look at the case of Thabo Bester in particular, he had, withdrawn the services of one of his legal teams and had told the court, the lower court that is, that, he'd enlist the services of the likes of Advocate Mbofu, as well as, Advocate Zandile Mshololo, who's the defense attorney in the Senzo Meyiwa case. But come the day of the appearance, the lawyers that appear on his behalf in court say that, in fact, they were only instructed that morning, which then begs the question around what has really been happening between October and Wednesday.
Yeah, and it speaks to, Melusi, you're obviously listening to what Linda is saying. It speaks to that issue of whether changing attorneys is a stalling tactic, right? The last time they appeared was in October. It's been 4 months since. There's now another 4-month postponement. We have to obviously be wary that they don't arrive, what's the date, in June, Linda, with yet another change of attorneys.
Yeah, the fact that the new attorney was on record on Wednesday, it can be concerning, because, as Linda said, there was enough time to arrange all that. So one may think it's a delaying tactic. If you are in custody, you've got nothing to lose. I mean, you've been sentenced for a long period of time, so you can keep delaying the matter. But once there's certain unreasonable delays, the court can ask for what we call a Section 342A application, where the court will caution whoever is delaying the processes, to get their houses in order. So I'm sure the court is watching, but let's just remember that it was the first time that it was in high court, if I'm not mistaken. So possibly, maybe this postponement might be the last, and hopefully in June everyone will be ready to do the pre-trial so that the matter proceeds.
Yeah. Linda, and once the matter does proceed, what prosecutors are telling us is that it could take up to 24 weeks. I mean, that's over half a year.
Absolutely. And one of the biggest concerns that was raised in court was the issue around financial instructions, particularly for the people that are enlisting the services of private lawyers. If you're going to say that the trial will sit for 24 weeks, are they going to be able to afford the services of lawyers for 24 weeks, which could, give rise to the question around, stalling tactics and, some accused saying, well, I can't afford the services of this lawyer anymore. I need a legal aid lawyer who may also want to come in and appraise themselves with the contents of the dockets. But hearing Dr. Nandipha Magudumana's legal team say that they are not yet at the stage where they can say that, in fact, for a fact, the case will sit for 24 weeks because the state, although it has lined up around 129 witnesses, they've not really spoken about which witnesses exactly they're going to use, which will then determine the length of that particular trial.
Yeah, Melusi, it's not completely out of the ordinary, right, if indeed this case were to last for 24 weeks or even longer, just given the nature of the case before the court.
No, it's not unusual. But I do think, and I agree with Linda, that the financial instructions can be a concern if it's going to be for 24 weeks. And remember that the attorneys and the advocates are probably charging per day. So will they be in a position to pay for a long period of time? And I think, and I can predict that legal aid will join in this case sometime when it has started. So I see that happen when the case starts.
And of course, Melusi, it's not just court time. It's not just time spent before the court with the judge. There are a lot of other costs insofar as private representation is concerned.
That's correct, Michelle. I almost thought you were an attorney yourself. They have to read dockets, copies. They have to consult. They have to make their own.
All right, the gremlins in the system not allowing us to talk to Melusi uninterrupted. But, I mean, his point is well made. We're not just talking about time spent in court here.
Absolutely, because there are a number of issues that they have to go through in terms of consultation, behind the scenes, and a lot of other issues that are involved in this particular case. But also looking at the indictment, it's quite a lengthy document enlisting, or rather detailing, the charges that they're facing. But one interesting thing, Michelle, that stood out for me, and I was hoping that Melusi would be able to assist us with this point, is looking at how things changed, right? Before this matter was transferred to court, it was called State versus Sinohe, or Sinohe Matwara and others. But now things have changed. Nandipha Magudumana is accused number one. And I wonder if there's anything to be said about that, because, if you listen to what the state had said in the lower courts, she is an alleged mastermind. And Thabo Bester is there right at the bottom as accused number 7. He's already conceded that he is Thabo Bester, and if he's conceding that he is Thabo Bester, then the question around what he was doing in Tanzania then becomes simple, because you are supposed to be in prison. You're a convicted killer and murderer. What are you doing in Tanzania? Does that now mean that because Nandipha Magudumana is, accused number 1, Melusi, is there anything to be said about that, looking at the indictment and the fact that she's now right at the top?
To answer to that, Linda, I know we had a discussion on it. For me, it's a matter of perception. You can have the most accused with the more charges as accused number 6 or 7, but somehow for perception purposes, you might want to appear as if this is the one that you are targeting for the case, and then you obviously put Magudumana as accused number 1, but it doesn't make much difference. What is important, Michelle, is the evidence that the state will bring and how it will be proven, and then at the end of the day, if they'll be convicted or not. But it's a matter of perception to say who's accused number 1, who's accused number 2. Yeah. But it does give you that mindset that they want to say this was the mastermind who was outside of prison, who made sure that Thabo Bester escapes.
Linda, you were obviously in court. You travelled to the Free State for this, what was meant to be a pre-trial hearing. And it was very interesting to see the body language, right? I mean, this is a case that has caught the country's attention for all kinds of reasons. And among them is this relationship between Thabo Bester and Dr. Nandipha Magudumana, a wholly different kind of appearance together on Wednesday.
Absolutely, Michelle, and it's one of the things that, stood out particularly as journalists waiting for them to come into the dock. Thabo Bester came right after Nandipha Magudumana went past the dock. She was taken somewhere else by, the police. And then Thabo Bester was put into that dock. She comes back. And immediately Thabo Bester is in the dock. And the expectation is, okay, there will be some form of communication here. But she then immediately walks past him and sits there right at the corner. What we see is her interacting with her father, sharing a long hug with her father, who also greeted Thabo Bester, surprisingly. But it was quite strange. But then, speculation may also be around the fact that the state did use her coziness with Thabo Bester in the lower court, during bail application, to say she's not scared of this person, looking at the manner in which she was interacting with her. But you remember also that she says that this is somebody that abducted her, and that she had no agency, she had no power to say no, essentially, and that she was forced out of the country by Thabo Bester. So we don't know, what's at play really here. Could it be that really seriously, she is scared of her because, of course, the last time that she was in court, she turned against him? Or could it be that it is a legal strategy to say, actually, we don't want the state, to come back and say, well, we are cozy. It couldn't have been that this person forced her out of the country. Yeah,
if it is indeed, Melusi, an attempt to change that narrative around this romance between Thabo Bester and Dr. Nandipha Magudumana, is it a bit late now? Because we've already all seen the images of them cozying up together in the dock.
It's too late if there is a strategy, because I remember the first time they appeared together when they've been arrested, they were so cozy and you could see they are happy. And then later on, when she was applying for bail application, she said, no, this person actually abducted me, he threatened me and so forth. Remember when they first arrested, there was a voice note that was going around where it was stated that Thabo Bester is actually threatening her. So if that is a strategy, I think it's too late for that. At the end of the day, the evidence is there. For example, Michelle, remember, she made a high court application to pretend as if she's the wife of Thabo Bester. No person will be threatened to do such, because even that high court application is a long process, and it shows that she was in cohorts to make sure that he escapes from prison. So pretending as if she's now no longer as close to him, and possibly she wants to say he threatened her to escape to Tanzania, I don't think it's going to work now, based on what they've shown after they were arrested, and based on the evidence that is there before they were actually caught, or before Thabo Bester escaped. So I don't think it will work as a strategy.
Linda?
Speaking of strategy, I just want to know from Melusi. I mean, one would have thought, if you compare Thabo Bester's first appearance to what subsequently happened, initially he had said in court that he wanted documents that related to his extradition. But now we see that obviously the Minister of Home Affairs has given him an ID document. When he's mentioned in court, he does concede that, in fact, I am Thabo Bester. Has the state already won when it comes to him? Because the big charge here is that he escaped prison through the help of others.
His identity has been confirmed, obviously, by Home Affairs and him, because there was a time where one of his advocates, why is he arrested, and they wanted him to exactly who is Bester. So after that, now it is something that assists the prosecution more to say he's confirming that he's Thabo Bester, and then the question will be how he escaped, and I think that will be then a difficult case for him. So I agree with the fact that it confirms that he's agreeing that he's Thabo Bester, and it makes his case a bit stronger, against him.
Linda, there was quite a lot of drama. I think we expect it by now, right? Whenever there's an appearance of these accused, there's going to be a bit of drama in court. Specifically with Thabo Bester and some of the demands he was making.
Yeah, there were issues around, his health, and for the very first time, we're hearing that he's a diabetic, and that in the morning he was given food that did not fit the dietary requirements of a diabetic, and that is the reason that his lawyer says he could not take medication. Another issue comes to the clothes. When he comes to court, because he's a sentenced prisoner, he can't come to court dressed in prison clothing. So you'd have to have civilian clothes, and he says he's not been given access to the clothes that he wants. In fact, it is dictated to him what it is that he can wear. Another issue which is quite important, the issue around phone calls made to his legal representative, and the judge saying that that is quite important because it speaks right to the rights of an accused person. In this matter, Thabo Bester is an awaiting trial prisoner and would need to consult with his lawyer. So if he is, not given access to his lawyers, then that would speak to a violation of his rights.
Right. But Melusi, how does it differ? Because Thabo Bester is not only an awaiting trial prisoner, but he's also a convicted murderer.
Yes, he's a convicted murderer, but like Mr. Mnisi said, in this case, he's a trial awaiting prisoner. So he needs, obviously, access to his attorneys for consultation, and also, obviously, for the clothes that he wears. We've seen he sometimes wears very expensive, clothing, so he has the right to wear what he needs. But with regards to the food and the health issues, I think it's something that they have to work out with the Correctional Services Department. But if they can't get help, they obviously have to come to court. But I would like to highlight this, Michelle, and I think it's very important. Whenever a person is accused, no matter how we have maybe prejudged him, he has a right to preparation for his case or her case. And I think the Correctional Services Department must make sure that they give him that access so that his constitutional rights can be implemented or can be obtained by him. Because if they are not allowing him to prepare, it's going to be another delaying situation or issue, because they're going to say they have not prepared, they were not able to consult. So I think the Correctional Services Department must treat it very carefully when it comes to that preparation for trial. Yeah,
because you wouldn't want any questions, right, around whether this person was given access to everything that they needed to prepare for trial.
Yes, that's correct. That's correct, Michelle.
Linda, the first time we're hearing about Thabo Bester being diabetic, was there any kind of response from the NPA, for example, outside court?
Well, what they said was that obviously because this is an issue that relates to correctional services and the people that who Thabo Bester is in custody of, then the issue would have to be taken up with correctional services about his dietary requirements. There's really not much that the NPA can do in terms of this, including issues around his clothing. I mean, access to his clothing is something that the Department of Correctional Services can help facilitate. The type of clothing that he wants maybe another issue. But his lawyers are quite certain about this, and what they're saying is that it seems as though he's being targeted, and they don't know why it is exactly that he's being targeted. They say he's getting treatment, a different kind of treatment, almost as if he's been already found guilty of the charges that are leveled against him. So they want to take this matter up with the court, but the court also saying that it is important then that they engage the Correctional Services Department, because also taking into account that it was the very first time that they were consulting with him that particular day, and perhaps during the next court appearance they would have a more substantive application that the judge can rule on.
Right, and now the countdown begins until the next pre-trial hearing takes place in June, Melusi. Probably one of the most highly anticipated trials once it does get underway in the country in our recent history. Melusi, are you still able to hear us? You can answer that, Linda?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that have triggered public interest in this particular matter. You speak about the role of private prisons that they play in South Africa. I know that the Department of Justice had already said that they're in the process of taking that prison and running it, but also issues around corruption in these prisons. A number of issues, including the novelty of this case, Michelle, I think, is one of the shocking things. how, somebody like Dr. Nandipha Magudumana, well-respected, who's followed by many young girls who looked up to her, could even get herself involved in this type of issue. So many of those issues will obviously be ventilated in the court, and the public will get some insight in terms of what it is exactly that happened here and whether or not they're guilty.
Yeah, absolutely. Linda Mnisi, his eyes are shining at the prospect of the start of this trial. Thanks very much indeed for coming into studio. Of course, we're unpacking the next months that are to come for the pre-trial hearing, which was meant to happen just this past Wednesday, now set down for June, and the trial itself meant to take around 24 weeks. Linda, thanks for coming into studio.